Okay. We couldn't find a game the Steam Deck couldn't run. Yeah, that's the statement. See, what that mean? What Valve did was give the developers the green light. The developers are like, okay, we got something to say about that too. We do. So, they took the hint that Valve gave them and they ran with it. So, good for them, man. Good for the Oxo team coming out with a new handheld. You know, and keeping up with the times and the demands of video games. Video games is very high maintenance. Oh, by the way, hello viewers. Another beautiful day. Hope your five senses work. Health and strength is good or excellent. Now, see, PC Games End now. No, they have a tendency to be taking a shot at the Steam Deck all the time. I don't know why. they must got a thing for the Steam Deck. But anyway, listen to this. They always taking a shot, and good for the Oxo team though for coming out with a new handheld. Good for them. Keeping up with the times and the demands. And keeping up with the times and the demands of video games. So you have to refresh your handheld. So very good for them, man. Come out with a newer model. Yeah. So but PC Games End, they have a tendency to take a shot at the Steam Deck. So listen to this. Here's what PC Games End said. The Steam Deck is finally under threat from a Windows gaming handheld. Of course, Linux gamers are going to laugh at that statement. The Steam Deck is under threat from a Windows gaming handheld. Well, Valve did said, we couldn't find a game the Steam Deck couldn't run. They did say that, So, the developers of their handhelds, you meaning like Asus, Lenovo, MSI, Oxo, Odin, Logitech, Orange Pi, A&EO, 1X, GPD. They heard those statements and they're like, okay, we got something to say too about that statement, meaning that they're going to increase the send a message like, okay, with their handhelds, so, but it doesn't mean that the Steam Deck has chopped liver by any means, because the Steam Deck can do 32 gigs of RAM, and the Steam Deck can do 61 terabytes of storage, and with the same hard drive you could put 121 terabytes of storage on the Steam Deck. I'm just saying. But anyway, but good for the Oxo developers though. Good for them, for keeping up with the demands of video games. Very good for them. Listen to this. It says here, the Steam Deck is finally under threat from a Windows handheld gaming. In my early impression of the Oxo A1X, its Windows compatibility is head and shoulders above other handheld gaming PC that uses the OS. So that means you're saying that the Oxo is better than the Asus ROG and the Lenovo Legion Go, even the MSI Claw. All right. So it's no secret the big weakness of Windows gaming handheld is ironically the operating system itself. It's this quirk that has helped the Steam Deck and Linux-based SteamOS maintain its position as the leader in the market. But you're saying that the Steam Deck is finally under threat. Anyway, it says here, but that could now be under threat from opposition that comes completely out of left field, the Oxo A1. Alright, the Oxo A1 is very new handheld to the market in that it was revealed in April 2025 and is currently only available to order via Kickstarter, and I have pre-ordered production models. However, on my early impressions are that it's finally a Windows handheld that won't be held back by its operating system. Time will tell whether the A1X goes on to be the best handheld gaming PC, but it's off to a flying start in my view. When I first unboxed the Oxo A1, I have to admit I was a little underwhelmed, but this is largely because I've come straight from testing the ANEO3, the first modular Windows handheld. Moving from this to testing a handheld with comparatively plain design felt like a step back, but it only took a few hours for this feeling to dissipate, and it is replaced with a sense of, okay. Once I got the A1X up and running, it became very clear that Windows is not the same drawback on this device that it has been on countless other handhelds such as the ROG Ally X, Legion Go, MSI Claw, and aforementioned ANEO3. But why? Well, it's simply in close to 10 hours of gaming on this handheld so far, not once has a game crashed or even stuttered when using the A1X quick access menu, okay, called the 1X console. Charging the system VRAM allocation didn't cause an instant full system reset, leaving me worried. I had bricked the handheld, and even the simple act of controlling games in the quick access menu all just works. No quirks, no delays, no freeze. I have simply had no issues whatsoever with Windows on the A1X. Says here, all of the issues I've just mentioned are so common on other Windows handheld that my expectation for the OXO A1X were lower than anticipation. I expect to struggle to navigate the operating system, especially with no trackpads and the only touchscreen on which to rely instead, thanks to a responsive 120 Hz VRR display in native landscape setup, along with a dedicated keyboard button that again just works. Everything I've done so far on the A1X has been laughably simple. Says given Windows work just as well on the A1X as it does on any desktop gaming PC, it feels like the one real barrier preventing Steam Deck from being knocked off the top spot is gone, and the A1X also has the Steam Deck eclipse when it comes to gaming performance. Says the OXO A1X uses AMD Ryzen 9 HX370 just like the ANEO3, but I'm a little surprised to see improved performance coming out of the A1X in initial testing. When quickly running the Cyberpunk benchmark at 30 watts, the A1X achieved an average frame rate of 55.94 FPS on the high graphical preset while using FSR3 on quality and with frame generation enabled. This is compared to the ANEO3 hitting 52 FPS under the same condition, but at a native 1080p resolution rather than the 1200p of the A1X. It will be interesting to see if the A1X can outperform ANEO3 on any other gaming tests in my full review. Then it says, while I'm impressed with the A1X so far, though, its $1,499 price tag is worrying. While it can be purchased for $1,159 during the Kickstarter, it's suggested that the full retail price will be much higher. And even given that what I've seen so far, that's an incredible hard sell. It says, are you planning to buy an OXO A1X or another gaming handheld soon? If so, you can check out the best Steam Deck games for a look at the games that run incredibly well on the handheld gaming PC. Alright. Well, that's the end of the article. And that's from our PC Games End. Well, very good for the developers of the OXO. Very good for them, by listening to their user base, and taking notes and then following up with a newer model for their for the OXO line of handhelds. Very good for them, and also keeping up with the demands of video games. Because remember, I told you that video games are very high maintenance, so very good for them, man. And you have to keep up with the demands of video games, especially with the way today's games are getting. So they did just that. Of course, AMD has their hands in everybody's pocket, so it has their hands in everybody's backyard, so to speak. So yeah, uh, yeah. This thing is using a Ryzen, Ryzen. What's this? What did it say? Ryzen. If I can pull this up here, if I can get this. Where is it? Where is it? It's using, what is it using here? A Ryzen AI 9 HX370. AI, huh? Well, let's see. Everybody's all on board with this AI stuff, from NVIDIA to AMD to Intel. Okay, so the OXO is using AI. The MSI Claw is using AI. So everybody's all on board with on the AI train. So anyway, but the OXO is using one of AMD CPUs. But very good for them, very good for them. So they have to keep up with the demands of video games. And based on what this article is saying, the games didn't crash while they were playing, So good for them. This handheld gives the competitors a good, a good run, whether it's the Steam Deck, whether it's the Asus ROG, whether it's the Lenovo Legion Go or MSI Claw or the ANEO 1X GPD. Good for them. It gives the competitors a good challenge and a good run, But this is all about keeping up with the demands. Keeping up with the demands of video games, and then keeping up with your consumers. So very good for them, man. So I'm sure, of course, when you come out with a new handheld, it might run games a little better. It might, Now for the price tag that they're charging, if price is not an issue for you, then it's for you. If not, then you have other alternatives. So just keep that in mind. So, but very good for the developers though, of coming out with a new handheld and keeping PC gaming, handheld gaming alive too, and coming out with something new to meet today's demand. So very good for them, man. Most of these handheld manufacturers have brought a newer model to the table already, from ANEO to GPD to 1X to Lenovo to MSI to Asus. They all bring a new handheld to the table, and that's based on their user base numbers too. So very good for them, man. If the price is not an issue, then go for it. Then if price doesn't bother you, then it's for you. One thing about these handhelds, they come with different designs, different layouts. They come with different screen sizes, and they come in different weight sizes. So it's all, there's about 7 to 8 billion users on Earth. So total. So each one of these PC gaming handheld has one of those billions of people that like them, So yeah. So but good for them though. So but this. This new handheld, just raises the bar, like far as like how powerful a PC handheld can go, So good for them, man. But if the price is not an issue for you, if price is not an issue, it doesn't bother you, go for it. Now, does this mean that the Steam Deck is like chopped liver? Nah, not by any means. It really ain't. It give the Steam Deck some good competition. It do. But the Steam Deck is no pushover, So yeah, and the Steam Deck is always getting new updates, from Steam, whether it's Steam OS, whether it's the Protons. Yeah, Steam Deck is always getting updated. But this handheld looked like it was built from the Oxo. By the looks of this looked like it was built to tackle Windows, you know, and it's handling Windows. Based on this article, like so far so good. So good for the developers, man. Good for them. But Steam Deck is still a champ. Just saying. See, I'm sitting here just joking around here, but good for them, man. I mean, run an average frame rate of 59.54 FPS on high graphical settings using FSR3. Very good. Now, can this handle FSR4? I wish PC Games N would have delved a little deeper on that. You know, it's I mean, they're using AMD, so good for them, man. And plus what the article says, the video RAM didn't cause an instant system reset. Good for them, man. So has a 120 VRR display. Very good for them, man. You know, you have to step your game up in this PC handheld gaming. You know, you can't just sit there and be like, well, you know, you come out with one handheld and you think that's it. You know, video games don't like excuses, man, when it comes to speed, power, and performance. So you have to make a handheld that can handle the speed and the frames and the graphical demands of video games. So very good for them, and this handheld might give the Neo 3 Asus ROG Legion Go MSI Claw a good run, you know. So yeah, so good for them though. Really good for them. And of course, I mean, if you're talking AMD, you're talking FSR and fluid motion frames, and then you add DLSS and all that. So yeah, but it looks like this handheld was built to tackle Windows. I think one of the things the developers probably did is just probably looking at the complaints that, you know, what people were having when running Windows on different Windows handheld, whether it's the Asus ROG, whether it's Lenovo, whether it's MSI. They want to see what's the response, you know, how Windows were handled on were those handhelds able to handle Windows. And I'm sure that's probably one of the key factors they focus on when doing this. So very good for them, man. You know, they meet the demands of their user base, you know. You know, you know, keeping up with the demands of our video games too. So good for them, and yeah. What else on this? Says, plus it has a quick access menu too. You need that. Yeah. Remember when the Xbox One came out with a quick resume? Yeah. These handhelds are getting up there too, you know, with these new features. Now this article says it eclipsed the Steam Deck when it comes to gaming performance. Well, when you're using a newer CPU, it might, but the Steam Deck is still the Steam Deck. So you're using a Ryzen AI 9 HX370. Okay. So I'm sure PC Games N is going to run a test on this when it compares to the Neo 3. So when they do, I'll put the article out for you. But good for the developers of the Oxo. You know, they're keeping up with the competitors, keeping up with the pack, keeping up with their consumers, and keeping up with the high demands of video games. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this video for y'all to enjoy it out. Nice talking to you people again. Chris, still Star Wars, Dark Side. Go. Peace.